Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to the very first power session for the Strategy plus Systems equals Success series. I am so glad you're here with us, and this is the first session, so we've got some things to go over in the beginning in terms of how this series is going to work. But I'm going to just ask you, first of all, in the chat, let's see if I can get the chat active. In the chat, just go ahead and start posting where you're from. And then if you have any questions, just put them in the chat. So I'm going to be sharing a PowerPoint, and I know there's lots of controversy about PowerPoints and live streaming. However, there are different learning styles. We all learn differently. And so we have people who are auditory learners, we have people who are visual learners, people who are kinesthetic and like to do the tactile, and then the people who do best by reading and writing. So PowerPoint is just simply a tool, and we're going to use it as a tool today. And there's going to be opportunities for those of you who are kinesthetics to actually do the tactile. So I'm going to just start to share my PowerPoint. And first of all, I just want to say, for those of you who don't yet know me, I'm Judy Whalen. I am the host of this series, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time introducing myself and going through the 30 years of experience I have, because we only have 30 minutes. And so you can find out more about me by just going to my LinkedIn profile or going to the website Center for Strategic Change. And you'll just get to know me through this whole series, because I'll be bringing in examples of things that I've encountered during those 30 years. So let's see if we can get the PowerPoint to work and just jump right into this. Okay, here's the trick that I've already learned. For anybody who's restreaming anything, I got a tip from Restream, is you don't broadcast in full screen like we would typically with a PowerPoint. You broadcast using full window. So this is a different setting, and it causes a few little, tweaks, whatever, but we're going to get through this. So I want to just give you some insight into how this 30 minutes is going to unfold today. We're going to talk about some general information about the series. We're going to spend about 10 minutes talking about strategy, 10 minutes about systems. Assuming we have some time, we'll do Q&A. If we don't have time, we've got a process in place that will get your questions answered. And then we'll do a quick wrap up. So now let's see if the little quirk with this PowerPoint is going to move it where I want. I love when it works. Okay, I want to tell you about the reason why I'm offering this series. The reason I decided to do this series is partly based on what I've seen in my 30 years experience with clients, but also because there just is a lot of confusion in the marketplace around strategy. And what is it, Friday is July 1. That means we have 6 months left out of the year to achieve whatever goals we set up for our business and ourselves. And by getting more clarity about strategy and understanding systems better, it's going to help you move towards achieving those goals that you set by December 31st. So the real reason I'm doing this is because I want to help you achieve whatever goals it is that you set for yourself and your business by the end of the year. Now, the length of the series, I wish I had a definite answer, but I don't. Right now I'm planning on 6, but it all depends upon the interest that we experience from all of you. There's different topics that'll be covered each of the 6. And if we want to go 8, we'll go 8. If there's enough interest, we'll just keep going. Now, I already talked to you about the different learning styles. So that's why we're using PowerPoint and why I'm down in the corner sometimes. I've already decided that the next session will be July 12th. So please put it on your calendar. Again, it will be live streamed, so we don't need to have that passcode to enter an event. It's just come to my page and it's going to start streaming. There will be a recording. It may take us a few days to, refine it and get it up onto the Center for Strategic Change YouTube channel, but there will be a recording. And at the end of the 30-minute session today, at the end of the power session, I've got 2 special offers for you, 2 free gifts. So that's how today's 30 minutes are going to unfold. So enough of that. Let's get into this. When I started to think about doing this session and this whole series, I had to think about what's the real focus of doing, what's the real reason for doing this? And yes, I talked about helping you achieve your goals, But the real reason and moving this along so that we could actually make the progress that I want to make, I had to make an assumption. And it's really dangerous to make assumptions. And when I'm working with my clients in strategic planning, I just refuse to let them make assumptions, because the decisions you make have to be based on facts and research that you've done. But in order for this whole series to be successful and to get us all kind of on the same plane, I made the assumption that we all want our businesses or our organizations to grow. So we're starting from that assumption of everything we're going to do from here is going to lead us to that, let's call it that big umbrella goal of growth. So we're jumping right in. I want to ask you if you have a strategy. Do you have a strategy for growth? And if you do, in the chat, put a Y. Yes. Put a yes. And if you don't, put a question mark, a no. Maybe you don't have a strategy. Maybe you're unsure if what you think is a strategy is. Maybe you're a little bit fuzzy about it and you don't have a clear picture. Or maybe you haven't even started your business yet and you're just here to get information so that when you start, you're on a good, you've got a good foundation. So go ahead and start putting those into the chat. Okay? And I'm going to keep moving because this 30 minutes goes really, really fast. If I can get this thing to move. Here we go. Here we go, maybe. Maybe not. All right, now we're going. Come on, there we go. Okay, so when I was preparing this for today's session, I mean, you see on the background of the title slide, you see the picture, and this gentleman is part of that picture. And I just love his expression because, quite frankly, this is what I encounter when I talk to people about strategy. It's kind of like, huh? What? So strategy is really, really confusing to people. It's like we all encounter strategy when we play a game. Like, well, if you're in sports or children in sports or you follow sports, you know that there's a game plan. But we often don't think of strategy in that same sense when we get into our business world, our nonprofit world. So I want to spend a few minutes talking about what really is strategy. And I just want to share with you this fact so astounded me that there was recent research done of 400 companies. And out of the 400 companies, 55.7% didn't have a common definition for strategy. So if you're confused about strategy, you have a lot of company. And what my goal is through this whole series is to help you get clear on what strategy is and to help you get clear on what the strategy is for your business, your organization, to take it to wherever you want it to go. So here's a definition of strategy. Okay. Strategy is simply a plan of action that leads you to achieving your desired outcome. Okay. Plan of action that leads you to achieving your desired outcome. That doesn't sound so difficult or confusing. And here are some key words, and you're going to notice in the PowerPoint. The PowerPoint is designed specifically this way because in 30 minutes, I want to convey key ideas, key concepts to you. And so that's why it's designed in bullet points and very simple. If you've worked with me in other areas, my PowerPoints have lots of graphics, but for this one, I want to keep it very simple, straight to the point. All right, key words to help you define strategy. Okay, game plan. Think about what happens in sports, or if you're playing chess or Monopoly. What is your game plan to win, to achieve the result that you want? Okay, game plan. But then there also has to be a plan of action. It's not just a game plan on a whiteboard with X's and all those curved marks that you see on a coach's whiteboard. There's actually a plan of action. So it is a method to achieve your overall goal. Sounds simple, right? But you got to get really clear on what is that overall goal. And we're going to talk about that in a minute. Now, the most important part about your strategy is that it is your competitive advantage. It is unique to your organization. It is how you will win in the marketplace. So that is strategy, your competitive advantage, how you'll win in the marketplace. Oops, I'm sorry. Now, characteristics. Again, here's the bullet list. Characteristics of strategy. Typically, strategy is long-term. It's not focused on like a task-oriented where you're going to do this, this, and this. This is a long-term game plan. Now, I'm going to put a little caveat in here, though. It's long-term in the beginning, and as you will see in future power sessions, there are different levels of strategy. And so there will be some strategy that might be midterm, and you might even have a strategy that is short-term. But overall, your strategy, like when we talk about growth, that's long-term, okay? Characteristics, it's action-oriented. Again, action is the key thing. It's not something that you're going to spend hours and hours designing and then put in a drawer or put on the shelf. You have to take action on it. Again, it gives you the competitive advantage, and it meets those shared expectations of your stakeholders. Now, stakeholders, that's something we'll talk about in a future session also, because stakeholders could be your employees. It could be your shareholders, especially if you're a public company. If you happen to be a nonprofit, it could be your members. It could be your funders. So there's all kinds of stakeholders with shared expectations that your strategy must meet. And then it's a strategic fit for your organization, for your mission. And we'll talk about that a little bit, about how sometimes strategies get totally off on the wrong track and totally not a fit for the organization. Now, the importance of strategy. This is why you do it. And it's so critical because it helps you determine what to offer. What are those products or services that, first of all, your customer wants or needs? What trends are coming down the pike that indicate to you there's interest in a product or service? Strategy helps you determine that allocation of resources. And boy, in today's age, we know that resources, well, they've always been somewhat scarce, but they are scarcer than ever right now. And by resource, I mean humans' time, your human resource, and of course, your cash flow, your resources that you have within your organization. Another reason strategy is important is it streamlines your processes, because you're going to now see the relationship between strategy and systems, because processes are housed in your systems. It boosts productivity. Again, when you combine strategy with systems, that's where you see productivity increasing. And it promotes innovation, which is so critical in today's world. So that's the reasons that strategy is important. Now, in the beginning, we talked about the assumption I made that this is about growth. So what I want to explain to you here with this assumption about growth, or whatever your overall goal is, we have to get really clear. Remember, a few slides back, I said you have to get really clear on what your overall goal is. So in terms of growth, you need to be able to clearly define what growth means to you and to your business, your nonprofit, your organization. And that sounds really simple, right? However, when you sit down to do this, growth could be described any number of ways that is significant to you. So for instance, we're all aware that in big corporations that are selling product services, growth might be determined on revenue, okay? Increase in revenue. Of course, but increase in revenue doesn't necessarily mean an increase in profit, as we know. You know, until you have control over the expenses, revenue could come in the door and you could still be at a loss. So get clear on, is it increase in revenue or is it an increase in profit? Now, there's another circumstance, and I'm going to go to the other end of a spectrum. For solopreneurs, There's all kinds of options, not only the ones that are traditional with typical traditional businesses, but also there's opportunities for them to think about growth in terms of how can I grow my business in the traditional way and have time away from my business. So I have time with my family, with my friends, take care of my health. There are ways to do that type of growth, and there is nothing wrong with that type of a definition. So any of you solopreneurs who are out there listening, it's quite okay to have growth defined as ways for your business to run stable, to grow, and allow you time away from it. So there are possibilities there. And I just want you to know that getting really clear on the definition of growth is essential to the strategy that you develop. Okay, so let's move on to systems. We've talked a little bit about this relationship of strategy to systems, but let's go on to systems. Do you have effective systems that function consistently? And I know there's an adjective there, function consistently. If you do, put a yes in the chat. If no, just put a question mark again. And let's see, I'm going to change that. Okay. Yes, if you have effective systems. No, if, or a question mark if something's not really clear. Okay. So systems, let's go. We got to keep this thing moving, computer. Come on. Here we go. It seems, whatever this, setting is, it seems to be a little fussier than when it's full screen. So let's talk about systems from the perspective of defining it. We define strategy. Now let's define systems. So systems is a group of interacting, interdependent elements that meet the desired objective. Now there's a couple words here. First of all, interacting implies action, interdependent relationship between elements, desired objective. Now, further down in this series, we're going to talk about the difference between a goal and an objective. Okay. So an objective is, let's just call it at this moment in time, it's under a goal. It's a little bit smaller. It's a thing that you achieve in order to accomplish your big goal. So systems, interacting, interdependent elements. Now, back to those key words, because this is what I want you to take away, are just key words so that you can think about these things in a simple manner. We're not doing any theory through this whole series. I promise you. You don't need to know the theory. We need to know how this works in your environment. We need to know practical ways and simple ways to make these things work. So, key words for systems. It's a set of principles, which, principles can be abstract concepts. So, set of principles, processes, procedures that are interdependent and achieve a specific result. Okay, a specific result is achieved. So, this is where this makes all kinds of sense. The benefits of systems saves time. So, think about in your business or organization when you're working on something and there's a piece of the system that didn't work right and you have to go back and do something a second time. Okay, that doesn't save time. When you get your systems working and they're refined, it saves time. It gives you that opportunity to have time away from your business. Okay, systems increase productivity. So again, think about, especially if you have multiple employees, think about their individual productivity because they're using a system that works. It improves consistency of the outcome. Okay, now the outcome could be fulfillment to a client or a customer. It could be consistency of communication that's clear. There's all kinds of, I'm going to say, circumstances in a business that consistency improves. Okay, it improves efficiency, which then is directly related to your productivity. You don't have to do things twice. You can get things done in a simple, time-efficient manner. Now, the next piece is the one that I see so often in organizations. Systems reduce conflict. And this is so critical because systems are let's call it, even though it's kind of a living process, it's not a person who makes a mistake. It's the system that's not working. So in organizations, what I've seen is people are blaming people. And that causes all kinds of other pieces in that organization to start to go awry. All of a sudden you got HR issues. When something doesn't work, it's typically because the system needs a refinement. It's not the person. The person is doing what they think they're supposed to be doing, but the system needs refinement and documentation. So one of the biggest benefits of systems is reducing conflict. Okay, another huge benefit is it improves customer satisfaction because, of course, they've gotten their product or services on time. They've had good communication, things that there's been consistent interaction. So improves customer satisfaction. And the key takeaways that I want you to take away from this, this really brief, this is I'm going to say the not only the high level look at strategy and systems, but boy, it's the fast paced move through what are the key concepts. So key takeaways that I want you to just be able to think about afterwards is good leaders do not leave strategy to chance. Okay. It's a proactive, full of action process to develop the strategy. Strategy is unique to your organization. That's what gives you the competitive advantage is your uniqueness. And there's all kinds of theoretical words around this when you start really digging into the theory of it. You'll hear words like differentiation and all kinds of other words, but just think of it in terms of strategy is unique to your organization. Now, if we move into the systems, the takeaway I want you to think about with systems is that it's a set of interdependent activities, interdependent. You have to do this to do that. There's a whole series of things you have to do that are dependent upon each other. And then I want to just leave you with this thought because operational effectiveness is not strategy. And we'll dig into that one more in another session in the series. Operational effectiveness might be the outcome of a system, but it's not necessarily a strategy. So the time is moving quickly on these 30 minutes. And I want to be sure to say, first of all, thank you. Thank you so much for your interest in this whole series. Because quite frankly, I went on a limb when I thought about this based upon what I've seen with my clients. And I just decided with only 6 months left in our year to achieve our goals, this was the time I needed to do it, is to provide the resources, the help to help you achieve your goals. And so I want to say thank you so much for joining me, for your interest in this topic. And I have 2 free gifts for you. One is go to my Calendly.com strategic change, go to that link, and you can schedule a free 30-minute strategy call. So if you're confused about your strategy or don't have one yet, just schedule a free 30-minute call with me and let's chat about it and see if we can get you to move to the next step. And then also, I have a free strategic planning ebook. I've done strategic planning with businesses and nonprofits over the last 30 years. And what I did is I just wrote a whole series of articles about the benefits of strategic planning, why smart companies use it, that are compiled in this ebook. And you can access that for free by just following that link. And I know the link is long, but hopefully you'll be able to just take a screenshot of it and then put it into your browser. So I want to say thank you so much for joining me again. Our next session I scheduled for July 12th at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. And these are just some of the tentative topics, which these topics may change based upon what results we hear from today's session. But tentative topics may be that we'll dig into the different levels of strategy, characteristics of great strategists, because this is what you need. You need to understand those characteristics so you can embrace them. We'll explore maybe systems that are common to most organizations, and then some tips for building systems. So again, I want to say thank you. Thank you for joining me. And just click those links, take a screenshot, and schedule your free strategy call. Download the strategic planning ebook. And let us know if you have questions. If you have questions and this comes up after, let me just put this up. This comes up afterwards. You got a question afterwards. Here, just see if we send your topics to info@centerforstrategichange.com, or your questions. Or if you have trouble with any of these links, just contact us at info@centerforstrategichange and we'll help you out. Now, regarding the questions, I wanted to spend just a minute talking about the questions because this is such a fast session. I want to make sure we answer questions, and I knew we wouldn't have time in the 30 minutes because it goes so fast. But if you have questions, either put them in the chat or email them to info@centerforstrategichange. And if we get questions, we will develop the answers and we will send the compiled list of questions and answers to everyone who wants them. So drop your email in the chat or send us your email at info@centerforstrategichange. Send us your email, send us your questions, and we'll get you answers, and we'll make sure answers are available to everyone who wants them. So on that note, again, I want to say thank you for joining us. This is fast-paced 30 minutes, and I know this was a lot of information that we just breezed through in this session. I'm working on different formats for other sessions in the series so that we can have conversations. We could have possibly guest speakers, share answers to questions that have come up. So I want to say thank you again for your interest in joining us. And I just wish you a wonderful, wonderful week ahead. Those of you who are in the US, happy 4th of July. Thank you, and I hope to see you on July 12th. Best wishes. Bye-bye.